you doing today? Are we on? We're on? All right. First off, I'd like to say thank you. What an awesome opportunity. This is Rob and I's first time here. If everyone would give a round of applause for all the volunteers, all the speakers, everyone that helped put this on. Okay, we'll kind of start off with a small disclaimer, kind of prep you all for what you're about to enter into here.
It's important to know, if you haven't heard Paul and I ever talk, we're not nervous, we're excited. We're very excited to share everything. We talk very fast, we like memes, we love cats. And just like every project we've ever worked on, we're going to just kind of BS around the first 20 minutes, trying to get to the point. We'll wrap it up in like 3 minutes left, and then we're not going to take feedback, so we appreciate your time. Yeah, you can just email us, it'll be great.
We work at Cerner, and one of the things we did to help with our introduction is actually have our team write some mean tweets. So this is us reading these for the first time.
Oh no.
At Level Up, Paul has reached that level of success where no one actually knows what he does, including Paul. Hashtag fake it till you make it. At Dead Man Running, Paul's running style can be described as sweaty drunk man slowly being chased by no one. Hashtag athlete's foot. At Upset Stomach Diarrhea, Paul is the Applebee's of engineers. Even with extremely low expectations, you still leave feeling disappointed and slightly nauseous.
I wrote that. That was mine. I wrote
That
that.
was fun.
Thank you.
You have to stay there and you have to clap.
Ready?
All right, here we go. At wasting time I don't have, I survived another meeting with Rob that should have been an email. Hashtag robbed. That's pretty true. You guys are so nice to me. All right, here we go. At No Happy Trees Here. Bob Ross said, "We don't make mistakes, just make happy little accidents." Clearly, he's never met Rob.
He's wearing the shirt.
Ross t-shirt there. At Surfs R Us. Of all the bosses I've had, you're the least horrible, said no one who reports to Rob, ever. Hashtag next level of Helton. Oh, wow. All right. At Who Invited Them. Rob runs a half marathon like he runs all of his projects. He starts with a lot of enthusiasm, talks the whole time, doesn't pace himself, and limps across the finish line after all the other competitors.
I wrote
Hashtag seriously. Hashtag these guys run.
still finished. Yep.
It's probably true. At Why Are They Still Talking? Paul and Rob were picked for another DevCon talk. Just slap director behind your name and people think you have something worthwhile to say. Bet the next 45 minutes disprove that theory. Hashtag director or disaster. So you should all be happy. You only have about 25 more minutes of this nonsense. Over like 10 minutes. Since you don't work for us, you can do what you want.
Okay. Yeah, we have some pretty awesome teams back at Cerner, but what are we actually talking about today? Cerner is a large corporation, and we're going to talk a lot about some of the silos and friction that exists with various processes within a large organization like Cerner. We're going to talk a little bit about the transition that everyone in this room is very familiar with, going from waterfall to agile to this DevOps. But we're going to talk a little bit about expanding DevOps a little bit more and inviting someone like Rob to the party. We're going to boil this down to something pretty simple. Know the right things, do the right things, focus a lot of time on building the team. You heard just a moment ago, we have to measure everything, and I think one of the most important things you have to do is communicate across every level of your organization. So a quick introduction in terms of where we work. Where we work is Cerner. Aaron mentioned a little bit of stats later, but there's some pretty cool things that we do. 2,000 babies are born a day in our system. Every hour, Cerner facilitates 3,000 ED visits. There are more doctors' offices running Cerner software than Starbucks worldwide. The amount of notes that we generate in a 2-hour period, if you were to print those things out on a piece of paper, it would weigh as much as a Nelson Atkins shuttlecock. Really excited, I don't know if you saw the news, we've partnered with AWS to help accelerate a lot what we're trying to do from a cloud perspective in our journey into the cloud. Okay, myself, nothing says I'm built to be an engineer like a picture of me as a 4-year-old on a Commodore 64. My family, this is my product team. This is my daughter, Madison. This is my son, Will. And of course, that's my wife, my product manager. I've started my career at a small internet company back in 2002. We actually built the add-to-cart shopping cart software for small websites. This is before Amazon. I went to Missouri State. I got my MBA from Webster University. I've been at Cerner for 11 years, and I'm currently a senior director there, and I run our data platform engineering organization.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rob. So I went to school for philosophy and religion. So if you don't know what that means, I had to get a job as an engineer because nobody would hire me. And so I started doing engineering, and it was mostly, I thought it was going to be great, but mostly I fixed printers after work. I thought it was going to be great. I had to manage client relationships. I came to hate it because you spend a lot of time disappointing everybody, so it led to a lot of problems. Who am I? What am I doing? We use a word for that. It's existentialism. It's angst, a lot of problems. So I said, forget that, and I became a physical therapist. I'm an actual physical therapist, which means I'm a doctor, but not that doctor. I'm the doctor in the back that doesn't have any money. But I'm still on the care team, and it's great. I did that for a long time. The physical therapist isn't in the picture. And so then I implemented Cerner software. I eventually came to work at Cerner. I thought this was going to be great. I'm going to be writing code again. I'm going to change the world, change healthcare. I'm a product manager, which means that mostly I disappoint people. But that's okay. This is my son. This is my wife. This is my daughter. I love my family. And then just like mean tweets, we spend a lot of time with our team. So we travel internationally with our team. We travel client sites with our team. It's very important you build the right team. And it's also very important that you don't take yourself too seriously. This is the best picture of Paul that exists. I highly recommend that everybody find at least one picture like that.
Aaron was just talking about a picture of himself with a mullet. I look pretty good with an afro. So.
All right, so what's the point of the talk? The point of the talk is this. We talk a lot about waterfall to agile. Our corporation's been going through a transformation for the last, 1 year, and we're still going through it. Waterfall is this horrible place where you have fixed dates, fixed capacity, and then you have fixed requirements. It's kind of rigid, and you take 18-month guesses of what somebody wants, you try and build it, and then you give it to them. And this is the dream world of agile where there's, kind of the organic, cage-free, artisan requirements that you just see what happens, and you have people like UX helping you. If you're wondering, this is healthcare. This is where we're at. We've been here. We're very proud to be here. This apparently is everybody else in here, so congratulations. I'm happy for you. To kind of underline that point, there's a small business called Medicare. They're ran by the government. And this is the requirements page of what we have to code for. You'll see no actual requirements on here because they don't tell you what you need to do. But they will mention 5 times that's due October the 1st. And so we don't know what we're coding. We know how many people we have. And we know what date it is. So just make sure this is fine. I'm good. This is going to be great. All right, so we're going to kind of talk for a second, and I would say, Paul and I worked together for many years. I'd say, Paul, this is really easy. We need to write a little piece of code that takes information from our database, it needs to go to the cloud, and then I need you to stick it in somebody else's database. Right? I mean, how hard can that be? I mean, we have cell phones. So, Paul, can you please do this?
So yeah, typical here, right? So Rob on the business side has this pretty little diagram he's showing clinicians. It's going to be this awesome system.
It's incredible.
Oh, let's look actually under the hood. It's a little bit more complex than that, Rob. Let me walk you through how this is going to work. So there's obviously a little bit of friction starting here, but there's this other thing at Cerner that we have to deal with that for folks that work at a large corporation. There are these silos that you have to work across. Rob, in order to get stuff done, I have to work across all these silos. And if you don't notice, there's even more stuff in the back, right?
Yeah.
I also need engineering to get this done.
Hey, look, guys, if you have engineers, I will crawl into any sewer with any clown. I don't mind. All right, so to kind of walk you through kind of the convoluted process of what I would consider waterfall, I took 2 initiatives that my team was responsible for last year. We have 26 initiatives, but these 2 initiatives are the orange dots at the top. The purple dot in the middle is all of the products that we're going to affect with our change. The blue is all the engineers that have to give me feedback of why we shouldn't do it. And then the blue is the area of the people who want it on the fixed date, on time, or else healthcare goes away. Or as I would like to say it, up there's the great idea. This is the actual work. These are the people who hate me. Sorry, you're not resources, you're human beings. And then up here, this is the really angry people who call me when the people who hate me don't get their work done on time. Product.
All right, so this is a real conversation that happened in teams that I recorded just to kind of give you an idea of Rob and I's relationship.
This is
and
waterfall.
This is also a great example of where Rob learns a little bit about DevOps, not just engineering, but our operations side of the house.
I thank you all for having me here today. I feel so welcome.
All right.
All right. I am emailing specifically to see that we need to move faster than he is. I don't know what that means. So I'm giving you a heads up. Don't say take today and add 6 weeks.
Okay, just to be clear, I can't make anything go any faster. I can't just throw people at it and hope it works, Rob. I need CernerWorks, this is our ops organization, to plug wires in, to physically build the machine.
Paul, you're misunderstanding. I bugged Paul so many times to find out when the project was going to, because I'm managing all these relationships, I'm managing all these various groups, that he built me a spreadsheet that would give me the date that the project was going to be done. And I got so excited because I had a source of truth. He wrote a little macro that took today's date and added 6 weeks. And so every time I went in there, and it took weeks for me to figure it out because I was so excited. And I showed it to other people. I was like, look, why can't you be like Paul? Paul gave me this little spreadsheet.
Only 3 iterations away.
Right. All right, so why does this all matter? Because in waterfall, it's very difficult to give the customer what they want. This is what we want it to feel like. We want you to feel like you're on this slide, you're going down, this is waterfall, it's exciting. Look how excited that guy is. I want to be that guy.
Look at that smile.
But sometimes, if you don't execute properly, like say that you don't have operations in the loop, you design exactly to the specification, you do exactly what they want, you understand the why, and you still fail because you can't get the adoption. Or, if ops is part of the team, you may deliver everything on time, but maybe you didn't understand what you actually needed to go do. And so there's this disparate filling where you have many silos, but not everybody's working towards the same purpose, and it leads to this is my favorite slide ever. All right, but remember, what we want to do is give everybody this wonderful slide. We want you to feel like this. We want everybody to be happy.
Yeah, so to do that, we want to talk a little bit about a product mentality. This is where we're connecting our DevOps organization into the front part of the business, where we're basically going through the whole value stream, all the organizations that are making it important to actually create value. What we're talking about when we're talking about a product is actually delivering business value. To kind of break this down, do all the things with the check mark, don't do the things with the X's, but really said this in the intro, know the right things, do the right things, and build the team. And to get into this, there's this whole, what is a product? A product, in its standard definition, is something that provides value to the customer. Value, value, value. Everything you need to do, we're talking about value. Consumers of that can be internal or external. They can be specific peoples or markets that you're targeting. They can be recursive. So examples of that would be a nut and a bolt. Both of those things are a product. Those hold a pilot's chair. into a plane. That is also a product. A pilot
Is a resource.
no, it's not a resource, and it's not a product either. An airplane that you fly on, that's a product. The website that you use to see how much that flight costs, also a product. The transaction that you're using, also a product. The credit card in your wallet or your purse, that's a product. Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, also a product. So from a project mindset to a product mindset, let's talk a little bit. If you're thinking about a project, you're thinking about on time, on budget. From a product perspective, we're really thinking about value. From a success criteria perspective, we're thinking about what is that long-term success of the product from the point you have this idea to the point you actually deprecate it. You want to nurture that project. This isn't something you go work on this cool little thing, you forget about it, you take on 100 other projects, and it just sits on the shelf. From a prioritization perspective, you want to test your hypothesis. You want to fail fast. You want to know if you're going in the right direction from a product perspective. And from a visibility, you don't want a complex roadmap. You're like, this team's working on this at this time. We got to make sure we align all this stuff. You want to create this environment of trust across that whole value stream. Oh yeah, and then I was trying project versus product, dog versus muffin. It was a late night last night, and I got a little uneasy. Okay.
All right, so whenever we're talking about it, when we started our product transformation, we did a lot of reading, a lot of visiting other businesses. We got to hear from many different people in the industry that are trying to make this translation. Something that really resonated with our product group is this idea of Simon Sinek, you start with why. And so it's the idea that you start with why, and then the how and the what follow out of the why, right? So you don't start with the what, you start with the how. Or the why. And so we can kind of break this down into a little bit more verbiage. So the why to us is what the customer wants, or if you buy into it, it's what the customer is hiring us to do. Hopefully they can tell us why they want us to do it. They may not always be able to tell us what they want us to do. The how, we try and divide everything into drivers. And so we have 4 main buckets. We have features, defects, risks, and tech debt. The process of us starting to quantify why we're building something has helped us phenomenally in understanding what we need to go build and how it will help the customer receive value. And finally, the output, we try and categorize what we're hoping to get from a value mechanics, whether it's value itself to the customer, cost reductions or cost savings, TCO, quality and happiness. Now, a bit of a note. We got really good at measuring basically everything, but what we did very poorly is tie them all together. And that's because we weren't really operating in a cohesive team that brought in sales, marketing, product, IP, our engineering organization, DevOps, and then the actual adoption process. So we would have one group work on what the customer wants, we'd have one group work on the drivers, and one group work on the output, and so it was still a very difficult transition. So here you go, here's the most important slide, it's the one where we give you bullet points. So to do the right thing, you need to have a documented, efficient, low BS process, right? So if anybody comes to you and they're like, we have this great process, it takes 6 weeks and there's 44 committees to approve it, you're going to fail. You're going to fail, or you won't do work, which may be your goal. I don't know. If you don't want to do work, just form a committee. The second one is invite the right minimal number of folks to a meeting. Remember, it's a team sport. It's okay to be inclusive. Remember, it's okay to challenge. The fact that I said, Paul, I don't agree with you doesn't mean, Paul, I don't like you. I don't like Paul, but that's not the point. And remember who gets to make the call. When you go into a meeting, somebody should be able to throw up the flag and say, okay, this is going to push, okay, we have to keep talking, or even, okay, I'm the person who gets to make a decision in this room for this problem if we can't reach consensus. And then last, measure everything. Telemetry is the most important. Telemetry of adoption, telemetry of usage, telemetry of value. But when you make reports, only report on what's important. As a product person, I got hundreds and hundreds of dashboards that I can go through, and it became the point that I was paralyzed. I couldn't do my work. And now I have a very nice dashboard that I run most of my business through. And in case anybody wants to know why measurement's important, a subway foot long is actually just this long. And for those at home, a foot long should be 12 inches. It's 11. That's a product problem.
That's definitely a product problem.
All right, and so let's talk about building the right team. Today's project team is a complicated group. We have business, UX, requirements, project manager, lead engineer, portfolio manager, testers, operations, and occasionally you even have engineers, which is a wonderful thing if you have somebody actually do the work. If you take 3 of those roles, so business, requirements, lead engineer, and in our project mentality, we had a lot of overlap. And so the business would say, I'm responsible for innovation, solution function, roadmap, prioritization, and clients. If you then went and asked Paul, he is going to say that he is responsible for the exact same thing. And then if you go and ask our requirements people, they also have identified they do the exact same thing. And it leads to a lot of challenges because we overlap so severely. Accountability is very difficult, and there's no idea of team ownership. And so to kind of get away from that and this silo that it brings, we started having this conversation. No. This is proof that Paul and I are parents. Those aren't our kids. Those are our kids independently. But yeah,
that's my
yeah, those are our kids. All right.
That's Rob describing requirements
yeah,
right there.
That one snuck up on me. So the project mindset, and we also ran into this interesting problem that if anybody wanted work to get done, they would come and maybe talk to me first, should we go do this? And it's like, oh, I don't think we should do this. And they would say, oh, okay. Then they go and talk to Paul. Paul, can we do this? And Paul would be like, no, I don't know, it's kind of difficult. Then they would leave and they would go and talk to the requirements writer, and then magically the next meeting we had requirements to go do the thing we didn't want to go do. And there's just so many input points because everybody needs work. And then when you talk about outputs, we had the same problem. We ship code. How do we measure value? Cost, quality, happiness. Did anybody bring operations in and let them know that we're done with this and we actually need people to adopt it? Most of the time, we actually left this as a critical step. We were forgetting the middle part of actually getting everything done. It led to a lot of very painful moments. So the way that we've kind of addressed this is this idea of growing past the project team. Right? And so just like an API, you wrap the whole thing to hide it, abstract it. We picked the right people who are accountable, and we made a product team out of them. Product teams are representatives from every area that are responsible for that product and the life cycle of that product. It's the group that we meet together to talk about innovation, function, where are we heading? Have we met our metrics? If we've met our metrics, let's stop. Instead of doing 18 more months of work, let's just do something else. And for us, that's a revolutionary idea. In healthcare, we get typically around 1,000 requests a day to go do something, and you have to go pick what's the most important thing out of that stack. And so then when you think of it from inputs and outputs, we have solidified to where there's only one way into our group. We have a team meeting where we talk through all of our ideas, defects, etc. We make decisions, and it leads to very logical outputs. We make sure that before we leave the room, if we're going to do work, we can identify what the value is, and then we make that transparent. We are doing this work because we believe this is going to happen. If it doesn't happen, we're not going to continue doing this work. We'll go do something else that distributes value. And this really crazy thing happens when you get these people in a room and you force them to talk to each other. They start aligning this idea that everything is just a theory. Everything's a hypothesis. And we're trying to test, using scientific method, data, et cetera, how to make customers happy. And we're having much more luck than we did 2 years ago. And the whole goal is, of course, to have happy customers, right? We want people who love our software. And it's very challenging to find anybody in the healthcare industry who absolutely loves using your product if it requires them to use it for 20 minutes per patient per day, so over 400 minutes. Nobody's going to be happy documenting. And so a lot of times, if they just call us and say, yeah, it's pretty good, I mean, that's a great day. That's a big warm feeling. All right.
Yeah, so just to kind of recap here, from a product team perspective, we were in these bubbles where you have these silos of different people, and the overlap was very, very small. So what we try to strive to do, as hard as it is, as difficult it is to be in the same room with you, Rob, we try to come together to actually create this idea of an awesome product team. So we try to get together and have those things overlap more. Everyone still has their unique responsibilities. We still have accountability.
That's right.
But together, we are looking to achieve value. And we're not the only group going through this. We actually had Target on site and gave a tech talk at Cerner about this specific topic. I actually just repurposed the slides that I showed you from their talk that these gentlemen gave. And we're not the only company transitioning. It's not just us and Target. There's a lot of really good materials out there for you to read and consume. Project to Product is a great book. Measure What Matters is also a good book that talks about OKRs and how you measure the objectives that you're trying to achieve. And it's responsible for a lot of Google's success. Okay, so we're gonna land.
We're gonna land. Everybody, if you need to use the bathroom, this is the moment. But we still have 5 minutes, so we have a present for you.
Yeah, this is almost like, what did Aaron call it? An Ignite
karaoke, but we don't know how to do that, so we made up our own.
So people learn in different ways, and this is kind of our conclusion to go through a project mindset to a product mindset. And we're going to use a cat as an example. I think most people know what cats are. All right, step one.
Paul, I have a great idea. We're going to make a cat. I think the market wants a cat. We really don't know very much about what it needs to do, but we've kind of sketched out its head. We know it probably has 4 legs, and there's this thing called a tail. So let's go build one.
All right, I understand what you're asking.
I need
think
estimates.
we can get this done.
Yeah, I just need
All right.
estimates.
All right,
Just tell me
let's
how
do
long.
some estimates. Now, the cats that I know, they're pretty dumb, so I'm going to only spend 4% of my time on its head, 14% on the legs, and like the tail's always going different directions. The algorithm that I have to use to figure out how to wag that tail is going to be difficult. I'm actually going to spend 80% of my time on the tail. There's my estimates, Rob.
Awesome. Can you get it done on time? If I take out the back legs. So we have this thing, we're going to call it MVP. We talk to the clients. We're pretty sure that we've got the critical workflow. We'll add the back legs later. We'll call it highly iterative.
That works.
If we do it.
That works for me. Thanks for compromising a little bit, Rob, on what we're trying to achieve.
I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Yep. Paul, by the way, we have a problem. We talked to the clients, and they absolutely need those back legs. So I know that you've been coding for a little while now, but if you could change everything just this once, that'd be super.
I always take 2 approaches to my estimates. To tell you the truth, I lied about needing the 80% on the tail because I knew this was going to happen. That's fine. We'll do the back legs. The cat can still walk.
Yeah, and there's really great news. We already sold it. I've been working with marketing this morning. I know that nobody's seen it yet. You can see that this marketing material is from a prior iteration when we had front legs. The back legs, we kind of made them shadowy on purpose because we didn't know if we'd get to them. But that's OK, because the people buying the software aren't the people who use the software, so what do we care what they think?
OK, so why don't you actually take me to see the client? I want to hear the client's perspective. Sometimes there's this filter. It's called the client. Then it goes to Rob. Then it gets to me. Let's actually talk about this. I would like to meet the client. Is that possible?
So this is actually something that occurred. Soon after I joined Cerner, Paul had been there forever, I took a call from a very upset client. I mean, we're talking like a 4-alarm, like escalation, 6 o'clock in the morning, somebody's angry. And they wanted me to come on site in Washington, D.C. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll be there. I go and talk to Paul. I was like, hey, Paul, would you like to go to D.C.? There's a client who really wants to give us some feedback. I think it'd be a great opportunity. And then we show up there, and so we're sitting at the table, and Paul's at one end, the customer's at one end, and I slowly matriculate down to the customer end. And when they start getting mad, I was like, yeah, Paul, why does it work like that?
Yeah. Me versus the force of God. That's right. It's a pod, dude.
And so it's very important that you bring your entire team for these critical conversations so everybody can really feel the impact of not including back or front legs.
I also like to call out where this customer trip occurred. We have already designed it. We're working on it.
The code's done. They just don't know yet. So
right.
waterfall's bad. Waterfall's bad.
So what did it turn out?
So we went and saw the client, and they had some critical pieces of the workflow that we weren't aware of. You can see that we went ahead and scoped back in the legs and added a trunk. And the hand, as far as I can tell, was a great differentiator and delighter. It holds a beer whenever you're typing up your documentation. So this is wonderful.
Yeah, and we had that hand left over from the last project that we worked on. So
that's true. We did have extra hands. And then finally, the most important part, adoption. So we did finish this project on time. We got the code out the door, and then just like every great project team, we were like, on to the next thing, and we just forgot about it.
Yeah, so we're going to let this cat just live out in the wild, unprotected.
Yeah, not just a cat. This is a cat that gets used by several thousand organizations
You
per
can't
day.
treat it like a project. You have a product out there walking around, roaming the neighborhoods.
So we shipped the code, got it installed, implemented, and then the very next day we found out that there was a undocumented feature that sometimes caused the system not to be responsive.
We have to take care of the cat. You have to groom the cat. It looks like it has a broken leg. There's some yellow discharge. There's an eye missing. We have to take care of it.
Right, and so if you're in a project mentality, who takes care of the cat, right? If you're really lucky, you have some poor team that just catches all your problems, but that's not really a product mindset. You really want the person who wrote the code, who lived with the code, who understands the why of the code, to be involved. You don't want to just ship it off to 5 strangers and say, hey, I didn't comment this code, best of luck.
Let's talk about risks.
Let's talk about risks. So what happens when toot-toot meets another toot-toot? I tell you what, it's the loss of sales and marketability. They make more. We weren't a good Apple product and engineered failure. I'm sorry, that's a joke. All right.
Last is my favorite. This is the thing you always want when I'm like, hey, we have defects out there. We have risks out there. Can I add a new feature, which is a real cat?
Yeah, it turns out that what they wanted the whole time was just a cat, and we never. And so this is kind of a call out to UX. Whenever you're doing a project mindset with fixed dates, a lot of times you don't have time to do testing, human factors research, actually sit with the customer and understand. Instead, you code towards requirements. If you do the requirements, sometimes they don't actually want what you build. They want what they ask for. They just didn't know how to ask for it. And so human factors, prototyping is a very great way to get ahead of it.
Yeah, then last, this is some of the best conversations Rob and I have when I'm talking about tech debt, where we have this pretty cat that he designed with its 2 legs and its trunk and its hand coming out. But underneath the covers, as soon as you release code, we all know we have those deep, dark tech debt that you have to take care of. In this case, poor Toot Toot was designed with a human skeleton because we had one of those laying around. Its heart's in rough shape. There's some security vulnerabilities that we have to take care of.
Paul, you're shipping late.
What's new? We're past our 30 minutes. It's all my fault.
All right, just like always, we didn't meet everything we wanted to do on time, but we hope you enjoyed it. This is actually our last slide, so I'm pretty proud. If you have any questions, we didn't want to take questions. We'd rather have conversations. So if you see us wandering around, please grab us, talk to us. We love it. We're under-socialized. Also, please leave us feedback. Feedback is a gift. Be sure and say something nice as well as critical. That way we don't have low self-esteem. And we thank you all very much, and thank you for having us here.
Absolutely,
we super
thank you.
appreciate it.